Good afternoon and welcome to Book Talk, the Class Mom series with Laurie Gelman. My name is Christian Mehta and I am the AVP of Engagement at our university. We are really excited about this webinar series for alumni and friends, and we can't wait to hear about this incredible book series during this Women's History Month. Before I introduce our moderator and author, I want to pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples, elders, and ancestors who stewarded and cared for the nature and people who live on the land where our university is located today. At the university, we have made important commitments to reconciliation, and I invite you to learn more about this work online and in person next time we get together on campus. A couple of quick reminders. One, this session is being recorded so you can rewatch it and share it with anyone. Watch out for an email from us on that. And two, if you have any questions for today's speaker, please type it into the Q&A feature on Zoom. Now, I'm delighted to introduce to you the author of the Class Mom series, Laurie Gelman, and our moderator for today's event, Sandra Martin. Laurie Gelman is a former journalist and talk show host who spent 25 years in broadcasting before writing fiction. She has 3 best-selling books, including Class Mom, You've Been Volunteered, and Yoga Pant Nation. Her 4th book, Smells Like Tween Spirit, will be released August 2nd. Laurie is an alum of our journalism program, and so we are so thrilled to have you here today, Laurie.
Thank you. What an exciting, I'm so excited to be with you guys. Thanks.
Absolutely. Sandra Martin is the head of newsroom development at the Globe and Mail and an instructor in the School of Journalism at our university. Previously, Sandra served as editor-in-chief of Money Sense and Canadian Living. And guess what? She's an alum of our journalism program as well. Welcome, Laurie. Sandra, I'm going to pass it over to you to get the show started.
Thanks, Christian. And hello again, Laurie. We
Hi.
were talking a few days ago. We did a prep call, and I reminded you that I was on the Mom Show, which you co-hosted for several years, like bread and butter of my early parenting years.
So that's nice to hear. I do remember you as a guest. You were on like twice, right?
Yeah, with my daughter who's now 19 and attending Ryerson as well. So turn.
Yeah.
So before I jump into talking about your books today and your inspiration and process, I want to give the audience a bit of background on the series in case they're not yet familiar. The Class Mom novels, which I've discovered recently as well, tell the story of Jen Dixon. She's the protagonist of all of the books, who lives in Kansas City. And she has 2 college-age daughters and a kindergarten-age son, which is like actually one of my nightmares. But they're all from different fathers, which is another twist. Like, I love that she's this relatably flawed person, but just a little more flawed than probably most people reading it are. So we feel like a little bit better about ourselves already. But she has this incredible confidence. She's so charming. And she says the things that a lot of us really think, including in emails to her fellow class parents, and mostly gets away with it. So the debut novel, Class Mom, which was so incredibly well received. This is when readers meet Jen and her unconventional family. So she's married for 10 years in the first book to her son's father, and very happy, I think she would say, at the beginning of the book. And she goes through some interesting discoveries about herself. But readers will laugh out loud as they kind of follow along as Jen tries to navigate this really difficult terrain of parental politics, and again, so relatable. The Class Mom series sheds light on the invisible labor issue as well, that many women experience, but in a way that's lighthearted and entertaining, which is why I think it's so eminently readable. So I'm going to start out with a few questions, as I get to be moderator, so I get to hog you with a few questions at the beginning, but we will have time for audience questions at the end. So if you're participating, please feel free to submit your questions via the Zoom Q&A function. So starting off with, you're a journalism grad. What was your inspiration for the Class Mom series? What made you decide to become a novelist?
It was more, I'm sorry. The dog walker just showed up, of course, to root for my dog. It couldn't be better. The inspiration was actually being a class mom. I had done the mom show, and then I realized my girls needed me at home, so I wanted to volunteer in school, and I thought it was, a really prestigious, wonderful job until I did it. Because I thought the class mom was the coolest person, and everybody wanted to talk to her, and she was so popular. And I was a kindergarten mom. I didn't know anybody, and I thought, oh, what a great way to meet people. So I volunteered the next year to be class mom. Little did I know that it's like the mob. Once you get in, it's impossible to get out. They pull you back in every single time. But I made it my own job because I loved, entertaining my class parents. So I would write the emails that Jen wrote many of them are verbatim what I wrote. And I wrote things that were far worse than what Jen wrote in the book too. I mean, I really had a good time with my emails, and it worked. I mean, people really loved, I even had fathers writing me and saying, I've never once in my life, read a class mom email, and I look forward to yours. So it was really a nice, and a very enjoyable thing. And I did it for 4 years. And then they asked me to come back again, of course, because they're the mob. And I said, no. And they said, please, everybody loves you. You're the best class mom. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And then I wrote my usual shot against the bow, like my way or the highway. This is how it's going to be this year. And there was one mom who had never had me as a class mom, didn't understand snark or acerbic humor. And she went right to the head of the school and said, this woman offends me. This woman can't be the class mom. You have to fire her. And they did. They fired me as a job I volunteered for. And by the way, didn't want the 5th year and said no to. And they fired me. And I said, you can't write emails like that. And I said, I've been writing these emails for 4 years. Like, where were you guys then? And they said, well, you've offended a mother. And I said, okay. And I said, you don't want me to just tone down the emails? And they're like, oh, would you do that? And I said, no. I don't want to do that. I quit. So, and then I wrote a book, and I feel much better about it now.
Well, you've written a few books now. And one of the things that, you've incorporated it is the issue of invisible labor. And, we've all read a lot about it. But the way we experience it through your novels is, it doesn't feel like you're being preached to, which is a lovely talent that you have. But I'd love to, in this talk, get into some of what you experienced of invisible labor. What does that mean to you? And do you think it's been magnified during the pandemic?
Definitely during the pandemic. I mean, but my instances were way before that. It really is just a thankless job that keeps, adding on burdens to it. And the people that do it, are kind enough to do it. And sometimes they take it a little too far, but most of the time they're, within their rights. But nobody ever says hooray, hooray for the mom that organized the skating trip for everybody, or who, or they get a perfunctory thanks from the teacher. But, on the other hand, schools need it. You need the volunteers. You need the people in there. Otherwise, nothing would get done. They just don't have the manpower in the school. So, the unappreciated and unsung heroes, the parents that volunteer, are really the driving force behind so much of what happens in school.
There's a hilarious, continuing joke in the first book with one mom who's always the first to respond to Jen Dixon's emails with her out of office message.
Reply is the first.
Yeah. I mean, you've been a working mom and you've been the class mom, which is also a different kind of labor. Is there tension between the work from home and the, other types of working moms, or has that gotten better?
I think it's gotten better. I think that there have been many books written with an over-exaggerated portrayal of the working moms resenting the at-school moms who are always there. There's always some little nitpicky, but that has not been my experience. I was a working mom and a class mom, so I was, I had all the balls in the air, and I never resented anybody for not doing what I did. Because it's your choice. If you don't want to do it, that's, or if you can't do it, that's entirely your choice. So I don't think that people judge as harshly as they used to. In my experience, I don't know. I mean, everybody's school is different. All the moms are different. You never know. All I know is it's a thankless job that nobody ever wants to take on, but you take it on because you feel you have to. And this is a burden that only women have, by the way. You don't see a lot of class dads out there. And if you do, And I had a class dad as my partner one year. And it was like having another husband. I mean, it was literally, you had to tell him everything to do because he just didn't know, how to do it. So it's truly, it is more of a woman's burden for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, my younger daughter has played hockey for a number of years, and sometimes you would see literally one of the dads who was an assistant coach or on the coaching bench said, "Yeah, my wife thought this was a good idea for me to have time to bond with our daughter." So, I mean, it's done with humor in your book, but I think that humor comes from real life interactions that people have that are sort of like, what you're describing with your class dad.
Yeah. Well, literally the fact that dads would email me and say, "I've never even read a class mom email." It's like, wow, okay. And it took this kind of email to get you to do it. But I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, I mean, going back to how you created the character of Jen, she's flawed. She makes mistakes. Were you at all concerned that maybe she wouldn't come off as being likable? And how did you deal with that?
You know what? I liked her, so it didn't occur to me until the reviews started coming in, and people actually were like, "She is so unlikable," and it's like, well, she's really not. She's just so real. She's so herself, unapologetically herself, flaws and all. She never says the right thing. She's not the greatest daughter. She's not the greatest mother. She's not in perfect shape. She's a little bit dumpy and wants to better herself. I think that's the most relatable woman of all. And if you can't like that woman who's just, completely flawed, then I think the flaw's in you.
That's an interesting perspective. And I've heard that before. If there's someone you really dislike, it's because oftentimes you're seeing some aspect of yourself reflected in them. So this is there's some challenging stuff that you bring up from the very beginning. Why did you decide to take a humorous approach in it? Is that what felt natural to you as a writer? I would love to talk about that a little bit.
The humor came out of just the situation and the writing. I'll tell you, when I first decided I wanted to write, it was because I turned 50 and I panicked and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not on TV anymore. My kids are grown. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so I decided I would try to write a book, and I'd write a children's book because that's easy. And the crap that they, publish it for kids is just ridiculous. So how hard can it be? As it turned out, it was very hard. And that is a whole subsection of publishing that is so hard to break into, and good for them. I mean, the people that make it work, I really admire them. So I was having lunch with my agent. Yeah, my agent. And he was telling me about the 47 people that rejected my children's book idea called 2 Weeks Till My Birthday, which was brilliant. And I may bring it out again sometime, but 47 publishers rejected it like that. And I took a phone call in the middle of lunch, and someone had forgotten what time their conference call was, or their conference time was with their teacher. And I was like, oh yeah, let me just access that out of my, brain, because I don't have the list sitting right beside me. Why don't you write it down when you make your conference time? And so he started laughing, and then I started telling him stories about the ways I had to deal with, parents and their kids and the teachers. And he was laughing, and he said, "That's your book." And I thought, really? Because I wasn't laughing. It annoyed the crap out of me. I was just like, oh, this is, and he said, "Laurie, go home and write this book." And I wrote 50 pages almost immediately. It was almost like it needed to be vomited out of my body, all this. And it ended up being very funny. And I'm not an overly funny person. I'm just not. I have a good sense of humor, and I love to laugh, but no one sits there and goes, "Oh yeah, Laurie Gelman, she's a hoot." So when the funny stuff came out, nobody was more surprised than me.
You've got the relationship piece in your book. So they're parents, they're kids, men and women. Would you ever imagine writing a book from the perspective of a dad or a male?
That would be harder for me to do. So much of what I write is from my own experience. I think it's writers are so talented who can step out of their own body and their own. I mean, the guy that wrote Memoirs of a Geisha. I mean, what a way to completely step out of your own life and your own culture. That takes huge talent. I could try it. I'm not sure how successful I would be.
Do you personally find it more relatable when you're reading a book from the perspective of someone who shares your gender?
No, not necessarily. Reading it, no, but writing it would be something else.
And interesting, like you said, it was kind of like vomiting out, the stuff in your life that you didn't think was going to be funny or would touch so many people. Now that you've been through, I think you're on your 5th book now that's about to come out. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Sure.
What do you hope readers will take away after reading your books?
I started writing the book and I wrote the other ones with the only thing in mind was I want somebody to have a good laugh out of this. I want to take somebody away from their day and give them this delightful story that makes them laugh, because there's not a lot to laugh about these days. And it's not, great literature. It is not going to, change the world. But after you've read A Little Life or The Nightingale or one of those beautiful books, and you need a palate cleanser, you read a cute, funny book, about this very flawed class mom, and it makes you laugh. And I think that I've done that for a lot of people. That's been a lot of the response I've gotten, is people are like, oh my gosh, I just really needed a laugh and I read your book, and it just made me feel so much better.
So let's talk about the book that you have coming out in August. And it's part of the Class Mom series called Smells Like Tween Spirit. For people who are already fans of the series, give them a little bit of, without spoilers, a preview of what they can expect.
Well, Jen's son, who was in kindergarten in Class Mom, is now in 7th grade. He's in middle school. His name is Max, and he has decided that he's going to join the wrestling team. Now, there are no class moms in middle school. They don't do that anymore. But so she has nothing to do. So she decides to become a mat mom. So she's one of the wrestling moms, and all the hilarity that ensues from that, as you can imagine. It's a whole new venture for her. It's a whole new venture for me. It was exciting to get out of the class mom, phase and do something a little bit different. She's never been a sports mom before. I have definitely been a sports mom, so I could rely on that experience. And she's also got a lot going on with her parents and her 2 daughters. But the main thing is she's dealing with the world of mat moms, and it's a whole subculture she never knew existed.
What did you draw from your own experience there, or how did you get that color for your novel?
Because I'm if I had been a mat mom, I would have been the baddest mat mom out there. I would have been, I can barely contain myself. When my daughters play volleyball, I'm in the stands and I am the ones like, Debbie, you want that ball? Yeah, Debbie's not even my daughter. I'm yelling at other kids, you want that ball? Don't back up. And then I in softball, I'm, yelling from the sidelines, slide till the coach had to come over one day and say to me, Mrs. Gelman, you can't tell the girls to slide because they listen to you more than they listen to me. I didn't want them to slide. So I was like, okay. So, I wanted her to be that, sort of anxious, like rah, sort of very spirited mom on the sidelines, but with all the drama that comes from that as well.
Well, on that note, I'm going to turn it over to the audience for the next question, which is related directly to, it's like the Matrix, because your dog is coming from the same direction every time. I'm surprised my dog has not decided to come meet your dog through the screen. So let's converse that doesn't happen.
But if I close the doors, it'll be even worse.
No, for sure. This is the reality of, working from home. I think it's delightful. So one of the questions we received was, do you have any advice for a parent looking to get involved as a class mom?
Don't do it. Absolutely. No, I would say yes, definitely do it. It's very rewarding, but you need to understand you will not be thanked or gratified, and there'll be a lot of frustration. But what I did and what made it work for me was I made it fun for everybody. I made it fun for myself. Just as Jen did, I did have, response times were noted, and I did give an award at the end of the year for the person with the, quickest response times and the person that, gave me the funniest reply in an email. Make it fun for yourself, because if you make it fun for yourself, it'll make it fun for others as well. And then the year will go by a lot faster.
What about tips for volunteering in the classroom? Any sort of overarching tips that maybe Jen Dixon would share with other parents? I'm not sure if there's a delay on my end or from Laurie's end. Not sure if you can see that in the audience. Keep the questions coming. We'll continue chatting. There's some really great ones lined up.
Okay, I'm back. You are.
Yeah, so I'm just getting a note that that Laurie's feed is frozen. We're going to try to get that back from you just as soon as we possibly can. Another reality of working from home and trying to do events via Zoom. We've got some really cool questions. Keep on sending them in. Yeah. Oh, there's a question that just came in about something that happens in starting in the first novel. We're going to try to ask that without any spoilers. Sorry, Laura, did you want to share something? I'm just talking to my friends behind the curtain.
I'm back.
Oh,
if anybody can hear me.
I can hear you, Laurie. There you are. Amazing.
Oh, good.
Okay, so let's cross our fingers and see if the tech gods will stay with us. Someone has asked, what did you learn from your journalism background that you bring to your work as a fiction writer? Oh, I think we've lost you again, Laurie.
Sandra.
Okay, now I can hear you. Do you want to try it? Let's try it without the video for a bit, like if you're comfortable with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll try again with video maybe after this question. I don't know if you heard this last question about asking what was it from your journalism background that you brought to your work as a fiction writer?
Nothing. Oh my gosh, because when you're a journalist, it's just the facts, ma'am, and you have to keep within the story, and you cannot be creative. You're creative, obviously, but you can't make stuff up. And it's like having your hand in the cookie jar to start writing, and you don't have to, go by any rules. You can write whatever you want. Jen could be a 9-foot Swedish man, and it doesn't matter because it's my story. It was very liberating. But what the journalism school did teach me was obviously, good writing habits, and also the act of being disciplined enough to sit down and write every day.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think I don't know if that question was from a journalist, but in terms of structure, did that and you've also been a broadcast journalist. Did that inform your sort of sense of setting a scene, or maybe not at all? I'm curious.
Gosh, I mean, I can't say it actually did. It obviously you're all storytellers in different ways. It was very liberating to not have to tell a story from beginning to end, soup to nuts. With it was just liberating to not have to stay within the bounds of certain things. Whether or not journalism informed me on any of that, I really couldn't tell you.
Okay, it's so interesting. I think people who are, whether they're writers themselves or they're thinking about trying it, it's an endlessly fascinating process. And which brings me to the next question, which is about your writing process. So how do you collect your ideas? When do you write? Like, is there a specific time of day? And does anyone help you sort through concepts? Do you have a sounding board?
I have a few sounding boards, good friends, and my sister, who, your sister will always tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. So they're always a good person. She was like, is this funny? Does this work? Is this okay? But my process, the books are very linear in that they start in September and they end in May. And so I know I'm going through the school year. So I have to hit, Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and, Valentine's Day. There's benchmarks I have to hit along the way. Otherwise, I'm not a storyboarder. I may try that for my next book, but for now, I just sort of where the day took me. And I would take my computer from 11 to 3 every day and go to Starbucks at Broadway and 88th, and I would sit there and I would write. and I couldn't call in sick, and I couldn't, get on my phone or get lost in the internet. I would just found that the only way to write a book is to sit down and write the frickin' book. There's no cheating. There's no quick way to do it. You just have to sit your butt down and put in the time.
And here's another question about your characters. Someone is asking or commenting that Jen's interactions with Dawn are fascinating, the way she flirts with crossing the line. As we mentioned at the beginning of the chat, Jen is happily married for 10 years at the beginning of your first book. Why did you want to explore that aspect of Jen's personality?
I didn't. This is very interesting. I handed in the book to my publisher, Henry Holt, and it was this perfectly baked chocolate cake. And I said, here it is. And they read it and they gave it back to me and they said, it's great, except that you need to put in a piece of apple pie and make it look seamless. Meaning they wanted another plot line in the book, and they wanted the plot line to be that Jen's marriage is not as good as it seems. She said, their marriage is too perfect. You have to dirty it up. And it was 4 extra months of writing for me to write something that I could live with, because I write Jen as having a happy marriage because I have a happy marriage, and I don't want to write about a bad marriage. I don't want to put that out there in the universe. So it was really hard for me to take that note, and it was a condition of getting published. So it's like either, like it or love it. So I loved it, and I wrote it.
Have you heard from your fans about what they think about that plot line?
Oh, about
Jen and Dawn? Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, that book came out like 7 years ago. So I think at the time, people could relate to it, because I'm sure we've all, first of all, sent the wrong text to the wrong person. But also, you get on Facebook and you see an old friend or an old boyfriend from college or high school, and you get it, and you sort of have those moments where do you remember this, and you were always the hottest guy in school. You just have those little flirt moments, just because it's we do as adults, and it gives you that, makes you feel young again for 10 seconds. You know what I mean? And it's always nice to reconnect. Whether you take it further than that is, that's on you, and that's a problem. But those, mini reconnects, I don't think are a bad thing. And I really feel like that's what she thought it was.
Well, someone has commented that Jen is such an entertainer and absolutely herself. Carry on with this series. And then someone else has asked, sort of on the other side of it, can you imagine leaving Jen behind and writing about another subject?
Yes, 100%. Yes, I can. I'm doing that right now. Look how excited I was. Yes, I'm writing a new book, and it's a murder mystery, and I can't wait to tell everybody about it when I get it figured out. But not right now. But most definitely, I think this is Jen's last hurrah.
Well, I think lots of people are going to be sorry to hear that, but excited to see what you do next after Smells Like Tween Spirit. And we've run out of time already. I could have chatted with you for so much longer, but I'm going to give the mic back to Christian, and want to say thank you so much for taking the time to chat, Laurie.
It was so great to talk to you. I apologize for the internet disruption. I have no idea what happened. I blame my dog.
Thanks again. Take care,
Laurie. For having me. Thank you so much.
Look, thank you, Laurie and Sandra, and thank you to Laurie's dog, who made a beautiful cameo as well. And thank you all for joining us today. Look out for an email from us with a link to this recording of the book talk, so you can share it with all your friends and talk up this really great series. And we hope that you'll join us for our next book talk, which is on April 26th. And it's featuring another alumna, Marsha Liederman, and her memoir, Kiss the Red Stairs, The Holocaust Once Removed. So details about this event will accompany the email that you receive shortly. Until then, have a safe and happy and warm. The weather's getting better out there. So we look forward to enjoying the next book talk and seeing you soon. Special shout out. Thank you, Laurie Gelman, for taking the time. And of course, Sandra Martin, great alumni of ours. We'll see you all soon. Bye for now.